Hello guys, as we are talking about a few basic concepts of chemistry, today we are going to learn one such basic concept, dimensional analysis. Any calculation involving the use of the dimensions of the different physical quantities is called dimensional analysis. For example, if you're asked to find out how many minutes are there in 24 hours, you have dimensions like hours, minutes in this question. So if dimensions are involved in a calculation, then we call that as dimensional analysis. It is used for any of these three purposes. The first purpose of dimensional analysis is to convert one unit to another unit. And you can check the accuracy of your calculation, and it is useful in solving a problem. So now I'm going to teach you how to convert one unit to another unit, because this is a very important concept in chemistry when you do calculations. In order to convert a physical quantity in one unit to some other unit, you can take any physical quantity. If it is in one unit and you want to convert it into another unit, you have to follow these two steps. First one, determine the unit conversion factor or factors, multiply with the given physical quantity. Now I will explain these two steps with an example. In this example, you are asked to convert a piece of metal which is 3-inch long. What is its length in centimeter? So you are asked to convert inch into centimeter. So you already know 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeter. Just like you say 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes, 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds, you have 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeter. So you can write 1 inch by 2.54 centimeter is equal to 1, which is equal to 2.54 centimeter by 1 inch. So this way of writing is called as unit factor. So whatever unit conversion you have, you can divide it and equate it to 1. Same way you can do it with the reciprocal and equate it to 1, and this factor is called as unit factor. Now you are asked to convert 3 inch into centimeter. So 3 inch is equal to, write the given value 3 inch along with the dimensions into, you have to take this factor, because you have to multiply this unit factor in such a way that this unit in your question gets cancelled. So this should come in the numerator. So 3 inch into 2.54 centimeter by 1 inch. So inch and inch gets cancelled. Now multiply this with this. So 3 into 2.54, put the centimeter as such. So you get an answer of 7.62 centimeter. The unit you get here is centimeter. If the conversion factor, these are the conversion factors, if these conversion factors are not correctly used, what will happen? The answer would have absurd units like this. For example, you are asked to convert 3 inch into centimeter. 3 inch into, instead of multiplying with this unit factor, if I multiply with this 1 inch by 2.54 centimeter, what will be the unit? Inch square centimeter inverse, which is not right. So whenever you multiply with the unit factor, you have to multiply in such a way that this and this gets cancelled. Now let's try with one more example. How many inches are there in 3.00 kilometer? Given that 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meter, 1 meter is equal to 1.094 yard, and 1 yard is equal to 36 inch. So you have to convert kilometer into inch. That's what asked. So the unit conversion factors will be, from these conversion you can write, see 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meter. So 1 is equal to 1000 divided by 1, which means 1000 meter divided by 1 kilometer, which will be equal to 1 kilometer by 1000 meter. I told you in the previous slide, this is called as unit factors. Same way, you know 1 meter is equal to 1.094 yard. So 1.094 yard by 1 meter is equal to 1. Same way 1 meter divided by 1.094 yard is equal to 1. And now look here, 1 yard is equal to 36 inch. So you can write 36 inch divided by 1 yard will be equal to 1 yard divided by 36 inch, which will be equal to 1. As I told you, if you want to convert this kilometer, you have to multiply with the unit factor such that this unit gets cancelled. So where is kilometer here? Here it is in the denominator. So you have to multiply this with this factor. In the second step, what should get cancelled? This meter should get cancelled. So you have to multiply with this factor. And in the next step, the yard should get cancelled. So you will multiply with this factor. Now I will show you how to do the conversion. See, this is given in the question, 3.00 kilometer, and you are asked to convert this into inch. So 3.00 kilometer into 1000 meter by 1 kilometer, so that this kilometer and this kilometer gets cancelled. And now you have to cancel this meter. And now in this process, you are converting meter into yard. So 1.094 yard by 1 meter. So meter and meter gets cancelled. All these values are the same because you will be multiplying it at the end. Same way, you have to cancel this yard. So you are multiplying this by this unit factor, 36 inch by 1 yard. So yard and yard gets cancelled. So finally what you have, 3.00 into 1000 into 1.094 into 36 inch. So when you multiply everything, the final answer will be in inch. Actually, when you multiply all this, you get a value of 118152. And this is written as 1.18 into 10 to the power 5 because the decimal is here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits you are moving, so you are putting 10 power 5. But why I am writing only 1.18, why I am not including all this? Remember in the previous video I told you about significant figures. When you are multiplying values like this, you have to report the answer in such a way that it has the least significant figure as in the question. See, here we have 3 significant figures, here we have 4, here we have 4 again and 2. So the least is 3. So you're reporting the answer in 3 significant figures. So you have 1.1118. So there are 3 significant figures just as in the least in the question. So this is how we use unit factors to convert one unit into another unit. One of the most important aspects of the subject of chemistry is the study of chemical reactions. You would have studied in lower classes lot of chemical reactions. These chemical reactions take place according to certain laws, and those laws are called as laws of chemical combination. There are many laws, but today I'm going to list few laws here. Law of conservation of mass, law of definite proportions, Gay-Lussac's law, law of multiple proportion, and the law of reciprocal proportion. These are the laws of chemical combination. But in today's video we are going to see the law of conservation of mass, law of definite proportion, law of multiple proportion, and Gay-Lussac's law. See, this is the statement of law of conservation of mass. In all physical and chemical changes, the total mass of the reactants is equal to that of the products. Or it can be stated in another way, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. So when you take a chemical reaction, the mass of the reactants will be equal to that of the mass of the products. I will show this with an example. Now look at this example. AgNO3 reacts with NaCl to give AgCl plus NaNO3. Silver nitrate reacting with sodium chloride to give you silver chloride and sodium nitrate. So here I am taking 17.0 gram of silver nitrate and it is reacting with 5.85 gram of NaCl. So what is the mass of the reactant? Add these two, 17.0 plus 5.85, I get 22.85 gram. So that is the mass of the reactants. Now look at the products. I have AgCl and NaNO3 and these are the masses. So when you add these two masses, I'm again getting 22.85 gram. So the mass of the reactants is equal to the mass of the products. This is what the law of conservation of mass says. So the law of conservation of mass states that the mass of the reactants will always be equal to the mass of the products. But in a number of chemical reactions, especially the nuclear reactions where we talk about atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs, the mass of the products is found to be slightly less than the mass of the reactants. So the question arises, where is this mass lost? According to Einstein, this mass is converted into energy. See, I told you the mass of the product is slightly less than the mass of the reactants. This lost mass is actually converted into energy according to this very famous equation called as Einstein's equation. E is equal to mc square, where m is the mass lost and c is the velocity of light. Hence, the law of conservation of mass has been modified. Now it is known as law of conservation of mass and energy. It states as the mass and energy are interconvertible, but the total sum of the mass and energy during any physical or chemical change remains constant. So this is the modified law of conservation of mass and energy. This law of conservation of mass was proposed by a French chemist Lavoisier in 1774. Now we'll move on to the next law, law of definite proportions or constant composition. This was again proposed by a French chemist, J.L. Proust, in the year 1799, and this law deals with the composition of elements present in a given compound. So this is the statement of law of definite proportion. A chemical compound is always found to be made up with the same elements combined together in the same fixed proportion by mass. So this is the statement. Now I'll explain this statement with an example. Let's take an example of cupric carbonate. The formula is CuCO3. No matter how you get this cupric carbonate, whether you are obtaining it naturally or you're preparing it in the lab, it is always found to contain the same percentage of the combined elements. Now see, in this compound you have copper, carbon and oxygen. So in the natural sample, the percentage of copper is 51.35, percentage of carbon is 9.74 and the percentage of oxygen is 38.91. Same way, you're taking a synthetic sample, which means you're preparing this cupric carbonate in the lab and you're checking for the percentage of each element and you're finding it to be the same as the natural one. Percentage of copper is same, carbon is also same and oxygen is also same as the natural sample. So according to law of definite proportions, whenever you take a chemical compound, it always contains the same elements combined together in the same fixed proportion by mass, no matter how you prepare that particular compound. Now let's move on to the third law, law of multiple proportion, and this was first studied by Dalton in 1804. And this states that if two elements can combine to form more than one compound, the masses of one element that combine with the fixed mass of the other element are in the ratio of small whole numbers. So you're going to take two elements and those two elements are going to combine together and form more than one compound. Now I'll show you an example and explain this law. So now look at this example. We are taking two elements, hydrogen and oxygen, and we are going to see what compounds these hydrogen and oxygen can form. See, hydrogen and oxygen combine to form water, and same hydrogen and oxygen can combine to form hydrogen peroxide. Now look at this, H2 plus O2 gives H2O. Now try to balance it. I'm putting a 2 here and 2 here. So 2H2 plus O2 gives 2H2O. Now what is the atomic mass of one hydrogen? It's 1 gram. Okay, so there are 4 hydrogens, 2 2s are 4. So I'm writing 4 into 1, 4 gram. And same way, one oxygen's mass is 16 gram. So O2, there are 2 oxygens, so 32 gram. And same way, take H2O. What is the mass of hydrogens? Hydrogen mass is 1. And what is the mass of oxygen? It's 16. But there are 2 hydrogens here. 2 plus 2, 4 hydrogens here. So 1 into 4 will be equal to 4. And oxygen, 1 oxygen is 16 gram. And there are 2 oxygens. So 16 into 2 will be equal to 32 gram. So totally we have 2 into 18 gram. Which means the mass of H2O, okay, H2O is equal to 18 gram. There are 2 moles, so we are writing 2 into 18 gram. You can multiply it and write, just to show the cancellation, I have written it as 2 into 18 gram. So we have 4 grams of hydrogens, 32 gram of oxygen and 2 into 18 grams of water molecule. Okay, leave it as such. Now don't look at this, we'll come back to this later. Now coming back to this one, H2 plus O2 gives H2O2. It is already balanced. Now calculate the molecular mass. You have 2 gram because 2 into 1, 2 grams. Oxygen, 1 oxygen 16 grams, so 2 into 16 32 gram. And H2O2, 2 hydrogens, so 2 gram. 2 oxygens, 2 into 16 will be 32. 32 plus 2 will be 34 gram. So these are the masses of each equations, elements, molecules in each equation. So now getting back to the law of multiple proportion, it says the mass of one element that combined with the fixed mass of the other element. So we are taking two elements. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to fix the mass of one element. Now let me fix the mass of hydrogen. Here hydrogen is 2 gram. So I'm going to fix this hydrogen mass also as 2 gram. But I have 4 grams here. So what am I supposed to do? I have to divide the entire mass by 2. So if I divide this by 2, I get 2 gram. And again divide this by 2, I get 16 gram. And divide this by 2, I'm getting 18 gram. I'm doing this to fix the mass of hydrogen to 2 grams. So both are 2 gram. Now come here. What is the mass of oxygen here? 16 gram. And what is the mass of oxygen here? 32 gram. This is in the case of water and this is in the case of hydrogen peroxide. So 2 gram, what is fixed? Hydrogen is fixed. For oxygen, in H2O it is 16 gram and again in peroxide it is 32 gram. So what is the ratio of this? 1:2 because 16 2s are 32. So 1:2 is the ratio. So this is what the law of multiple proportion says. It says when two elements, here hydrogen and oxygen, when they combine to form more than one compound, here it is forming two compounds, water and hydrogen peroxide, the masses of one element that combine with the fixed mass of the other element. So the mass of one element, that one element is oxygen, that combines with the fixed mass of the other element, here it is hydrogen, are in the small whole numbers. So this is that. Okay, they bear a simple ratio to one another, 1:2. I'll explain this with one more example. Here we are taking the examples of compounds of nitrogen and oxygen. See, nitrogen and oxygen can combine together and form these 5 compounds: N2O, NO, N2O3, N2O4 and N2O5. Now we are going to calculate the parts by mass, which means the molecular mass. And I'll be teaching this atomic mass, molecular mass calculation, everything in the next video because you have a separate topic on that. So as for now, you just try to understand how we are calculating for these compounds. See, for one nitrogen, the atomic mass, which means the mass of one nitrogen atom is 14 gram. And the mass of one oxygen atom is 16 gram. So here it is N2O. N2O means 2 into 14 plus 16. You're getting the molecular mass of this to be 44 grams. So let's not calculate the whole mass because we're going to talk about the ratio in which they are combining. So the mass of nitrogen in this compound is 28 gram because 2 into 14 and you have one oxygen. So the mass of oxygen is 16 gram. Now coming to this compound, one nitrogen, one oxygen. So 14 gram, 16 gram of oxygen, 2 nitrogens and 3 oxygens. So 2 into 14 will be 28, 3 into 16 will be 48. So this is the mass of nitrogen and oxygen in this compound. In this compound, 2 nitrogens and 4 oxygens. So 2 into 14, 4 into 16. N2O5, 2 nitrogens and 5 oxygen. 2 into 14 is 28 nitrogen parts by mass. And you can take it as gram here. So 5 into 16 is 80 gram. So these are the mass of nitrogen in all these compounds and these are the mass of oxygen in all these compounds. Now as the law states, you are going to fix the mass of one element. Let's take nitrogen here. We will fix the mass of nitrogen. What is the actual mass of one nitrogen? It is 14. So you're going to fix all these numbers as 14. So here it is 28. So divide by 2, you'll get 14. So when you divide this by 2, you have to divide this also by 2 because this is also present in the same compound. So 16 divided by 2 will be 8. Now take this. This is already 14. So no problem. Write it as such. 14 and 16 oxygen's mass. Now here it is 28. Again divide this by 2. You have to divide this also by 2. So you are getting 14, 24. Divide by 2. Divide 64 by 2. So 14 and 32. Divide by 2, 14. And divide this by this value by 2. You are getting 44 oxygen. So according to the law, you are fixing the mass of one element and see the mass of the other element combining with that. It is having 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. So if you take the ratio, you get 1 2, 3, 4, 5, because 8 2s are 16, 8 3s are 24, 8 4s are 32, 8 5s are 40. So these masses bear a simple ratio 1 is to 2 is to 3 is to 4 is to 5 to one another. This is what the law says. If the two elements can combine to form more than one compound, the mass of one element combining with the fixed mass of the other element are in the ratio of small whole numbers. This is the law of multiple proportions. So the last law that we are going to see here is Gay-Lussac's law of gaseous volumes. This is just like law of multiple proportions. Here we are going to talk about gases. When gases react together, they always do so in volumes which bear a simple ratio to one another and to the volumes of the products if they are also gases, provided all gases are at same temperature and pressure. Just like law of multiple proportion, here it says the gases will react together, but they do so in volumes which bear simple ratio to one another. I'll show that with an example. In the first example, we have combination between hydrogen and chlorine. See, hydrogen reacts with chlorine to give HCl, hydrogen chloride. When here you are taking one volume of hydrogen and one volume of chlorine, and you're getting two volumes because you're balancing H2Cl2, so you're putting a 2 here. It is giving you two volumes. See the ratio, 1 is to 1 is to 2. They combine in a simple ratio. And see the second example, this is a combination between hydrogen and oxygen. Here H2 plus O2 gives H2O. So if you balance, you put a 2 here and again a 2 here. So two volumes of hydrogen combining with one volume of oxygen giving you two volumes of water. So the ratio is 2 is to 1 is to 2. Here the ratio between the volumes of reactants and products is simple. Here it is 1 is to 1 is to 2 and here it is 2 is to 1 is to 2. This is what Gay-Lussac's law states. But here this law was proposed by Gay-Lussac, but this was later explained by another scientist, Avogadro, which we will be seeing in the next video, the law given by Avogadro. So far we have seen four laws: law of conservation of mass, law of definite proportions, law of multiple proportions, and Gay-Lussac's law. Thank you.